All right, welcome back to HM and Biggie Review Things. We're with our panelist Rob here, permanent panelist Rob. We are in San Diego, flew all the way from Toronto to San Diego for SDCC 2023, San Diego Comic Con. And so we are on day 4 now. We finished 3 out of 4 days. We couldn't get the Saturday badge. That's hard to get, but we did go Thursday, Friday. Saturday we were off-site doing off-site things, and then today we're here on the final day. So we usually rate this con, we're going to review it with 4 E's: experience, entertainment, exhibitors, and event flow. So we'll just go through it one by one. We'll talk about it. We'll give you some highs and lows. Just going to say a precursor. This year, the actors and the artists and the writers were on strike. So everybody knew this was a convention.
No, wait. Not the artists. The artists were not on strike, just the actors and the writers.
Oh, yes. Even more accurate. I think it's going to be something we need to talk about, which is the whole atmosphere changed. Hollywood was missing from this convention. So let's just go through it. Now I'll ask Rob, first of all, experience. Let's talk about experience. That's sort of just the overall, I think, energy level. It's just the whole atmosphere. Rob, what do you think?
Well, this is actually my first time in San Diego, and I have to say, it's quite overwhelming. Yep, there's a lot of people involved in organizing this. It's been going on for, I think, almost 20 years now, right? Managed to talk to some people who've been here since the beginning, and wow, when you're talking about an actual comic convention, they know how to put on a show. So for me, it was the wow factor and just being overwhelmed by just the sheer magnitude and awesomeness of this event of people coming together.
Yeah, I mean, I think the energy was here. But the thing we got to talk about is the energy is focused in one spot, which is the exhibition hall, really, if you think about it. Because there were no panels, there were no signing, there was no Hollywood, there were no actors here, celebrities here. I came in 2017 with a big guy, and I remember going to the Marvel booth and seeing Chris Hemsworth, going to the Marvel booth later and seeing the cast of Black Panther and the crowd surrounding it and having them sign things, and you could spot celebrities. So that whole factor was gone, and it was really, I would say, a shopping convention. There was a lot of stuff happening on the floor, and we'll talk about that a little bit later. But that's our first E. Overall, I think it was, the energy was there, the experiences.
Yeah, I mean, this was a con for a lot of exclusives. Just seeing people lining up really early. We're talking about 5 in the morning just to get into the exhibit hall and buy stuff. Now, I've read some posts online where, people were essentially running over each other just to get in line to buy the latest thing, or get in line to get the latest exclusive or the latest promo, just so that they can sell it. And it's crazy how, you and I, we checked on eBay to look at some of the stuff that was available. For example, we lined up at MetaZoo, where, they're giving out this promo card that's going anywhere between $50 to $70 US. Hello Kitty.
This promo card.
Yes, this promo card. Yeah. Hello Kitty is going for almost 200 US. It's ridiculous how people are willing to just, run to get stuff, but there's also people willing to buy this stuff.
Yeah, so I mean, the energy's here. It's just kind of crowded into the one thing, which is collecting and buying exclusives and selling exclusives and shopping. And that floor is very busy, is very crowded. I don't even know if it's much different than 2017 in the sense of volume. It always feels packed, but I think without Hall H, you're just concentrating the energy. There's no disbursement of energy. So it's loud, it's pretty strong here. But the second E we review is entertainment, which is what to see and what to do. So just in terms of the whole, entertainment factor, do you feel excited? Rob, what do you think?
Honestly, I think the entertainment value this year was a bit down because really the writers and the actors not being here, it's really just looking at stuff and you're not really entertained. We managed to get to a couple of panels. One of the panels I did enjoy was when Dan Hip?
Dan Hip.
Yep, Dan Hip, who is one of the artists for Marvel Snap. He did an appearance. We went to that, and the room was full, and I was shocked how many fans there were for Marvel Snap. This is a game that's on an app. It's free, and I've never played it, but you know, our Big E, our what's it?
Gaming expert.
Our gaming expert. You know, he's a huge fan. And it was a packed panel, but you know what? It was still interesting. They talked about the development of the game, and I thought that was probably one of the most interesting panels I went to.
I think with only 2 weeks left before, you know, the con and having the writers and the actors strike, they couldn't pivot in time, and so they highlighted a few comic book artists, a few game creators, but it couldn't pivot in time to be focused on that. And maybe contractually they couldn't get the guys there. They have, you know, big conventions like E3 down the road that, you know, those guys are going to reveal all the new games and all that kind of stuff. So it felt a little bit muted. I went to a panel, Gene Yang, who's an Asian American artist, and he's done Superman, he's done a few other things. It was kind of interesting what he was talking about, but yeah, just the lack of energy was pretty apparent.
Yeah, there was, again, no marquee star power in this event.
Yeah, a lot of times you go to a panel just to hear the voice actors or see the actors, right? Hall H is a good example, but they were all gone. There was nobody here. We did go to a few experiences that you line up for, that big companies will put money behind, like Diablo. We went to Star Trek, the experience. We went to, I went to Ghosts, a new show. They're all little experiences, when at the end you usually get some swag. So I don't know, Rob, how do you feel about some of those?
The Diablo one was in a way, I felt bad for the actors trying to do their best job to put on a show. I mean, you know, we have a few clips of, you know, what the person was going through, and I was in some ways I felt kind of cringe.
Oh man, it was cringy.
But you know what? I appreciate the effort. All right.
Yeah, it was basically a little skit that they did. Star Trek, Paramount put a pretty fun thing together where you sit in the captain's chair and they film you, and then you go to a planet and they film you doing something, and it's in slow motion, and they send you the video so you can show all your family and friends, and we can insert it here. But that was pretty fun. I think Paramount, and then you get a little poster at the end.
An exclusive poster. Strange New Worlds.
Right, and they actually had one about the musical. That's airing today actually. They had the poster, but it was sold out. I think, you know, they're trying their best. I mean, Ghost had one where I went in, you got a little t-shirt. That was a little bit fun. But essentially all the panels and the experiences without Hollywood, it just feels a little bit muted is the word.
Yeah.
Now, what about exhibitors, Rob? That's a 30 exhibitors, which was, I didn't think anything changed this year because they weren't affected, aside from maybe, you know, a star showing up at the exhibit hall and you know, signing some autographs.
Well, again, like some of the exhibitors, you had Marvel that was there. You know, they were talking about some of the games, of course. They also had another big one there was Tamashii Nations. You know, they sell a lot of like figure arts, like, you know, action figures. We lined up to get some exclusive Dragon Ball Z figures, which, you know, took some researching as to, you know, knowing where to go. And then, you know, they also had like debut of, you know, new Hasbro, you know, one of the big ones that I was looking forward to, debuting new toys, Transformers specifically. And it was pretty awesome to see Robo-Sen do that Grimlock, which, you know, you take a pretty good video of transforming. You know, we'll insert it here where you can see the video of Grimlock transforming. But really, in terms of exhibitors, I was only interested in, like, you know, the toys and, like, you know, seeing stuff. So I was actually quite happy, you know, to see some of the cool stuff that they had.
Yeah, they had the typical things like Artist Alley. They had a lot of independent folks there selling their merch. So I think overall, that didn't really change. I think what was different was just so many people in line for things because there was nothing really else to do, right? Some of the outdoor exhibitors did a great job as well. We went to the Hulu one, which is had a lot of swag at the end with a little 2D backpack plus 6 little, you know, egg kind of pins. So then they featured Futurama, Simpsons, Family Guy. That was really good. But when we got to Paramount Plus, the line was so long, it wasn't moving. People were in the heat. It's just too unrealistic to expect us to be sitting through that. I heard Jurassic Park was even worse. They had a big 30th anniversary exhibit outside, so a lot of things you can do outside the con.
And there was
people
also
did.
an interactive zone too.
Right, but the line again was very, very, very long in sweltering heat, 30 plus degrees, without water. It's tough. It's tough to stand there, and if you got little kids, forget it. It's just going to be impossible.
But the bottom line is, if you weren't able to get tickets into San Diego, there's just so much to do outside of San Diego, where if you don't have tickets, there's a whole bunch of events, because you don't need to have like a badge to go onto some of these off-sites, which is pretty cool. I talked to another person in line who said that, yep, he's been going to cons for 9 years, never bought a badge because there's just so much to do outside. You just have to be patient.
It's a fun time, but again, it's just so many people. What about the last one? I think we got to talk about it real quickly.
No, not quickly. We need to talk about this a lot.
All right, event flow. Event flow. That's how you manage the crowds, how you get people in line for safety, for comfort, all that kind of stuff. So, Rob, you got a lot to say.
Yeah, I mean, okay, so I've been to 2 cons, New York Comic Con, and I'll just tell off the bat, Reed Pop does a much better job than SDCC in terms of like managing crowds. Like, number one, first of all, part of event flow, let's talk about the app, right?
Yeah.
NYCC app, you're able to like book stuff, you can see what's happening, you can even plan your day. The SDCC app, completely useless. It just tells you, okay, here's here, and here, and then that's it. And if you want to like buy stuff, they go through this lottery system. But this lottery system does not work, because you'll get a slot and you assume that the slot allows you to buy an exclusive, but it doesn't. All the slot does is just manage the crowd so that you don't come too early, and it forces you to come. So I want a slot for Entertainment Earth at 2:30 to 3:30, and I thought, okay, good, I can just show up at 2:30 to 3:30 and get what I want. No, I had to line up behind everyone else who had already lined up before me, and it was gonna take at least an hour and a half, and I'm like, you know what, forget it. And plus, the exclusive I wanted to get, it was already gone in the morning, within like 15 minutes. So, no point in doing that.
Yeah, at NYCC, I remember winning a slot, and for the Rock's golden, Funko Pop figure. But I remember going, and they had enough there, and you could get it. But here, if you limit it to 100 people, the first, 100 people are going to grab it at 9:30 or 9 o'clock in the morning if you have VIP access, and it's sold out the rest of the day, leaving a lot of people frustrated, even if they want a slot to go at a certain time. So essentially, it defeats the entire purpose of even having a slot system.
Yep. And then there's this new concept that I learned called line capping. I was like, what does line capping mean? Oh, it just means you cannot make this line because we have too many people, go wander somewhere else. And when you ask the question, when should I come back? They'll be like, come back in an arbitrary time, 10 minutes, 30 minutes, 2 hours, come back tomorrow.
But they also say no hovering. So you can't stand around, they don't want you to block. So this is an example of just poor line management, not knowing how to facilitate, crowds of people. Some of these lines are involving little kids, and it's hard to bring the kid out and bring them back in. And so, they don't want hovering. And some of the people, unfortunately, were quite rude. Not just the fans, but the staff who were basically making it hard for people to come back. So I would give props to Paramount Plus, actually, Star Trek, because we came early in the morning. They said, sorry, we're out of space, but why don't you come? And they gave us a little ticket and said, come back at 4:30. How big's your group? All right, we're going to guarantee you a spot at 4:30. We came back at 4:30, and we got to enjoy the experience. They got to do stuff like that, but I would say 99% of lines did not do anything of the sort. Yep. MetaZoo, today, because of the crowds for their cards, finally adapted a wristband system.
MetaZoo had to pivot. Before, they would have time slots for a free giveaway card. So for Thursday, Friday, they had just people massively crowding around. They had giveaways at like 9:30, 11:30, 2:30, and I think 4:30.
4:30, yeah.
And then because Thursday, Friday, there was just crowds of people and they didn't know how to manage, what they did was they did a wristband system. Now, to get your wristband, you have to line up outside the pavilion, which is away from the con, which again allows for proper crowd control. So I think they did that only today, right?
Yes. So I applaud MetaZoo, but during the distribution, another mess. It's in the middle of the convention hall. There's no lines. There's no sort of tape. It's just kind of moving people around, and people are biting, and people are getting mad at each other trying to get this card. It's just kind of a mom and pop gong show, and they just, if they know every year, especially this year without Hall H, without these big panels, they need to anticipate that better and say, we're going to have double the amount of people lining up for things because there's just lack of variety for us to sit down in a hall and enjoy a panel. So I think you got to talk about Marvel, Rob, and you love Marvel, but so that to get into the Marvel merch line was like something out of an Indiana Jones movie where you had to figure out this puzzle to do it.
Yeah, like I went first thing in the morning, and I was literally stopped and the line was capped. I did constant laps because I had to keep moving. I couldn't stay in one spot. Kept on doing laps until finally the lady let me in, and I was like very grateful. Now, again, it's not the staff's fault. The people who are there capping the lines, they're just doing their job. If anything, I just blame the organizers, or maybe even just the exhibitors themselves.
The exhibitors,
right? Like who manages these lines?
Not just that, but the way the booth is designed is just absolutely terrible because they know
it's right in the middle.
It's right in the middle, and Marvel wants that center spot, but the line can only go so far, so you can only have 50 people at once. So they know they're going to get hundreds and hundreds of people, but they also want that prominent spot. So wouldn't it be, I know they're not going to do this, but wouldn't it be better if Marvel actually has a ballroom or something where it's only their merch, and you line up there for merch, and their main spot is for, stage activities, giveaways, that kind of thing. But you're forcing the crowd to do something without clear instructions, and they're going to get mad. So many people were so upset. They didn't know what to do. They're hovering around. When they finally let people, I got into spot by gently, slowly going in there, and I somehow got a spot to purchase something. But it's kind of a mess.
Yeah, I mean, compared to New York was smart. They actually had two Marvel booths, right, on either side of the hall, and the lines were on the corners, like on the edges, away from groups. Whereas in SDCC, San Diego, it was right in the middle, and you really didn't know how to form a line or where the people can just congregate to get stuff, right?
Yeah, that's a huge thing with this many people. It's just they got to get that done better. They got to stop mom and popping this kind of event. SDCC is traditionally the oldest and as most revered Comic-Con because all the studios have a connection with them. But if this was just, this may show it this year without these big, companies coming, big stars. There's a lot of room for improvement. I'm sorry to say this. I love SDCC, but the event flow must be improved.
Yeah, and that's all that. It's our final day here, so.
It's been long 4 days. So if we're going to recap, Rob, what are you going to grade the experience, entertainment, exhibitors, event flow? So let's go with experience first. Your overall experience, your first time here, Rob.
Well, you know what? In terms of my experience, I'm going to give this probably, I have to give this at least an A- because this is my first time here. The only thing I will knock on is, the actors strike, the writers strike, but that's not the con's fault.
Yeah,
right?
That's fair. Yeah.
There's still a lot to see. They still managed to fill the rooms, right? Like the where you can see panels. They still managed to fill the space with interesting things. So I'll give it at least an A-. Yes.
Yeah, overall, I would say I'd agree, A-. I think my first time, even though it was chaotic and crazy, the energy, the excitement, It was like an A+. My first, I came in 2017, right before the end game, era of Marvel. So it was so energetic, and the lineups were crazy, but it was kind of fun to see what exclusive you would get. But I would give an A- as well. What about entertainment, Rob?
I would say I was still pretty entertained. Again, I would give this another A-. Right, there was still a lot to see. Granted, some of the experiences we went to were kind of like cringeworthy, but you know what? That's part of the experience, right? Like they're doing their best. There's lots to see. There's lots to do in around town, and all the off-site stuff was pretty cool too.
Yeah, I think the experience for me was probably still. I'd give it an A. I think it was, again, I agree with you. There's a lot to do. The big companies that showed up, they put effort into it, and so the experience, the entertainment value is good. Again, the writers' strike, the actors' strike, it's not their fault, so I can't really knock them for not having certain panels that gave that wow factor, announcing the next big movies. Dune 2 was supposed to have a panel here. That would have been sold out for sure in Hall H, but they didn't show up, so we can't knock them. Exhibitors, Rob?
Oh, exhibitors, I have to give an A. I mean, if you're looking for stuff, which is generally what I like to do, there was a lot of stuff to see. So they had every single table, and everyone there was things to buy. I saw the toys that I enjoyed, and an A.
If you like free stuff, this is going to definitely get an A as well for me in terms of exhibitors. I mean, they have a lot of exhibitors to the point where you're quite overwhelmed. You got to take your time, look at everything. And what I did notice is maybe the Artist Alley was not as big this year. The Artist Alley is usually bigger, but for some reason it was a little bit smaller this year, which is kind of strange because I think this would be the year they step up because of all these strikes, but it seemed a bit small. We got to talk about event flow. What's your grade for that?
I'm going to go with a D. All right? No, okay, I'll give two grades, and I'll explain to them. I give it a D because I was very frustrated. And I know when you went back in 2017, you had to exercise patience. I didn't know how much patience you had to exercise, right? So, I mean, not to be able to get the stuff I was looking forward to or needing to come back the next day to get it, that sort of ruined, a little bit of the whole, SDCC for me. But I will probably readjust it to a B- because I still managed to get some of the stuff I wanted. So it's like when you're waiting in line, you're like F. I'm at the failing grade of F. But once you get the stuff, you're like, okay, now I'm happy. I feel like I've accomplished something. So that's more like a B-. So you know what? I'll go in between. I'll give it a C+. C+ is my grade for event flow.
I'll give it a C. Them getting us compared to 2017 and this year, the security is tighter. The staging area is tighter. It's the whole flow does work a little bit better because 2017 was a gong show, even though it was super entertaining. I'll have to give it a C because they didn't pivot well enough. They should have anticipated way more people crowding around for things, and the con itself, I don't think it's the security of the con. It's the individual exhibitors working with the security that I don't think did a good job because they all have their different rules, right? So the no hovering rule is no good. You either tell people where to stand or come back, here's a time slot, but don't say, well, you can't really walk around this area. So people will make a circle. I saw people like Rob who make circles around it. I mean, really, it's good for exercise, but that kind of stuff can't fly. There's some really grumpy people managing, not really being respectful. Some people were good, but I can't really knock any one particular group. But I definitely think the exhibitors, they all have different ways of doing things. And I think they need to standardize a little bit more. They need to have better holding areas, bigger holding areas, maximize the space more. Because that exhibit floor, there's just no more space in it for lines. It's really for booths. So lining up is absolutely insane there. So I got to give it a C. But overall, I hope this was a good experience for you, Rob. SDCC is definitely a must-go experience for big movie, comic book fans.
Oh yeah, we forgot to talk about Hall H, where we're gonna put in a clip. Nobody lined up in Hall H.
Nobody.
It was empty. Like Thursday, Friday morning, Saturday we didn't get tickets, which I'm pretty sure was the busiest.
Did they have Star Trek there?
Star Trek was there. So I heard that there was a lot of people lining up for Star Trek. So Saturday was the busiest day, but for the Thursday, Friday we went, the tent was empty.
It was empty.
It was empty, surprisingly. And it was around 7 o'clock.
This is a minor thing, but I thought there would be more cosplayers. It seemed like there were, but not the really elaborate, crazy costumes I've seen from before. But just a little bit muted this year.
Well, maybe we weren't looking at the right spots. I'm
Okay.
sure you'll see a whole bunch of videos of other people taking cosplays, but for us, maybe we just weren't looking at the right spots.
Anyways, that's our quick review. Thanks for tuning in. Please do follow and like for more. I hope to go to more of these cons. We've been to New York Comic Con twice, but we got to go review that as well. But I'd love to hear your thoughts as well. Did you go to SDCC? If you did, put a comment below. Let us know if you agree with what we thought and what we said. But until next time, keep watching things, keep going to conventions, keep having fun.
Remember to like, comment, and subscribe.
Yeah.
And also, like, if I were to say if I would to come back, I would definitely come back. We came here with our daughters, right? and they had a great experience. So you know what, that would probably be the most positive thing, being able to have a father-daughter trip,
Yeah, sorry. That's a great point, Rob. Definitely having the kids here, it can be tough and straining, and I'm proud of them for lasting 12-hour days. But having that experience with your family member, especially one-on-one with a child, is great. So if you're a father and mother out there watching, or if you're a son and daughter, keep safe, keep watching things, keep going to conventions, having fun together. All right, thanks. Take care.